Finally I've got this second board of Keen's Cove wired up, and believe me, this has been a real headache. I spent 5 hours soldering in SEEP point motors and switches so that I could operate the points. Tested everything, it worked absolutely fine. It was exactly in the right place and they seemed to work okay. So I glued the track down, and then once it was dried I came to test it and they didn't work. And what happened is that this SEEP point motor actually melted. I now know the reason for that is because I've used the wrong switch. I've used a toggle switch which has an off, a middle and an on. What I didn't realise is that the power supply to the solenoid needs to be a quick on and off, and what I was doing was switching it on and leaving it on without returning the switch to the neutral position, and that's what caused it to burn out. What I should have done is use a different switch with simply an on and an off, which flips between the two. So fortunately no harm done. I noticed it before the house caught fire. I've been able to remove this solenoid. The others are okay, so I just need to buy some new switches and to put them in. But also at the same time, I came to the realisation that I was making another huge mistake. As you can see, with this board of Keen's Cove, I've got a layer of insulation foam on top of the ply, and this is because I needed to cut down to make the cove itself, to make the waterway. But that did mean that fitting the point underneath the board wasn't going to work because the rod was too short. So for this board, the idea was that I cut into it, so I had that extra length, which was fine for this board. But for the second board, I suddenly realised that I didn't need to put a layer of foam on it because I wasn't going to create any undulations. And so what I've done is build the board up so that when both boards together, ply comes up to this level. So I don't need to have an extra section of foam. That means that when I refit the solenoid point motors, they can go directly under the ply. Let me show you what I mean on the other board. So here's the second board. I've got the track laid out with the 4 points ready to do and a new set of point motors. But what I'm going to do here is I've risen the height of the board itself, so when it's connected to the board in there, they're parallel. So I don't have the problem of fitting this point motor into the foam, if that makes any sense at all. It kind of makes sense to me. So it should be a much easier job. All I'm going to do is put a layer of cork on here. I know it doesn't really deaden the sound, but I just think it makes it look a bit nicer. I don't know, it's just a personal opinion. But now, it's taken me about 5 hours to wire this up, but all of the points are working. I've stuck to the Gaugemaster SEEP point motors, the solenoid point motors. This time I've used the correct switches so they're not going to burn out. There's a bit of buzzing to a couple of them. I think I'm just going to have to live with that for now. So let's have a look and let's watch the Santa Fe moving around the switching yard at Keen's Cove. So here's the panel I've made. It's nothing special, but the best bit is I made it myself, and it works. In hindsight, I think maybe I should have had lights on it, but I can do that at another point.